भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। शृण्वतं स्वकथा कृष्ण पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तनः। हृदन्तस्थो हि अभद्राणि विधुनोति श्रीशतं। नष्टप्रायसु भद्रेषु नित्यं भगवत सेवया। भगवते उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयति गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणां। Hare Krishna. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 1, Verse 6. यदि भावः राजन् स राजपुत्र प्रियव्रतः परमभागवतो नारदस्य चरणोपसेवाया सावगत परमार्थ सतत्व ब्रह्मसत्रेण दीक्षिष्यामनो अवनितळ परिपालनायां नता प्रवर गुणगणेकान्ता भजनतया स्वपित्रोपामन्त्रितो भगवती वासुदेव एवाव्यवधाना समाधियोगेन समावेशित सकलकारक क्रियाकलापो नैवाभ्यानन्दात् यद्यापि तत् अप्रत्यामनातव्यं तदधिकरण आत्मनो अन्यस्माद् असतोऽपि पराभवम् अन्वीक्षमानः. Synonyms. Yadhi, because, bhavaha, indeed, Rajan, O king, saha, he, Rajaputraha, the prince, Priyavrataha, Priyavrata, Parama, supreme, Bhagavataha, devotee, Naradasya, of Narada, Charana, the lotus feet, Upasevaya, by serving, Agyasa, quickly, Avagata, became aware of, Parama Artha, transcendental subject matter, Satattvaha, with all knowable facts, Brahma Satrena, by continuous discussion of the Supreme, Dikshisyamanaha, desiring to fully dedicate himself, Avanitala, the surface of the globe, Paripalanaya, to rule over, Amnata, directed in the revealed scriptures, Pravara, highest, Guna, of qualities, Gana, the sum total, Ekanta, without deviation, Bhajanataya, because of his possessing, Sopitra, by his father, Upa Mantritaha, being asked Bhagavati in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeve, the all-pervading Lord, Eva, certainly, Avyavadhana, without cessation, Samadhi Yogena, by practicing yoga in complete absorption, Samavesita, completely dedicated, Sakala, all, Karaka, senses, Kriya Kalapaha, whose total activities, not, Eva, thus, Avyanandat, welcomed, Yadyapi, although, Tat, that, Apratyamnatavyam, not to be rejected for any reason, Tat adhikarena, in occupying that post, Atmanaha, of himself, Anyasmat, by other engagements, Asataha, material, Api, certainly, Parabhavam, deterioration, Anviksamanaha, forcing, translation and purport by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sukadeva Goswami continued, my dear king, Prince Priyavrata was a great devotee because he sought the lotus feet of Narada, his spiritual master, and thus achieved the highest perfection in transcendental knowledge. With advanced knowledge, he always engaged in discussing spiritual subjects and did not divert his attention to anything else. The prince's father then asked him to take charge of ruling the world. He tried to convince Priyavrata that this was his duty, as indicated in the revealed scriptures. Prince Priyavrata, however, was continuously practicing Bhakti Yoga by constantly remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead, thus engaging all his senses in the service of the Lord. Therefore, although the order of his father could not be rejected, the prince did not welcome it. Thus, he very conscientiously raised the question of whether he might be diverted from devotional service by accepting the responsibility of ruling over the world. Purport: Srila Narottam Das Thakur has sung Charya Vaishnava Seva Nistara Paichekeva. Without serving the lotus feet of a pure Vaishnava or spiritual master, no one has ever attained perfect liberation from material bondage. Prince Priyavrata regularly served the lotus feet of Narada, and thus the prince perfectly understood transcendental subjects in truth, sa tattvaha. The word sa tattvaha means that Priyavrata knew all the facts about the spirit soul, the supreme personality of Godhead, and the relationship between the spirit soul and the supreme personality of Godhead. And he also knew all about this material world and the relationship of the spirit soul and the supreme Lord within the material world. Thus, the prince decided to engage himself only in rendering service to the Lord. When Priyavrata's father, Swambhuva Manu, requested him to accept the responsibility of ruling over the world, he did not welcome the suggestion. This is the symptom of a great liberated devotee. Even though engaged in worldly affairs, he does not take pleasure in them, but remains always absorbed in the Lord's service. While thus serving the Lord, he deals externally with worldly affairs without being affected. For example, although he has no attraction for his children, he cares for them and educates them to become devotees. Similarly, he speaks to his wife with affectionate words, but he is not attached to her. By rendering devotional service, a devotee acquires all the good qualities of the Supreme Lord. Lord Krishna had 16,000 wives, all of them very beautiful, and although he dealt with each of them as a beloved husband, he was not attracted or attached to any of them. In the same way, although a devotee may enter family life and act very affectionately toward his wife and children, he is never attached to these activities. This verse states that by serving the lotus feet of his spiritual master, Prince Priyavrata very soon attained the perfectional stage of Krishna consciousness. This is the only way to advance in spiritual life, as stated in the Vedas. यस्य देव परा भक्तिर्यथा देवे तथा गुरु तस्येते कथिता हि अर्था प्रकाशन्ते महात्मनः. If one has unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord and the spiritual master, the essence of all Vedic knowledge is revealed to him. Shweta Upanishad 6.23. A devotee always thinks of the Lord continuously. While chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, the words Krishna and Hare immediately remind him of all the Lord's activities. Since his entire life is engaged in the service of the Lord, a devotee cannot forget the Lord at any time. Just as an ordinary man always engages his mind in material activities, a devotee always engages his mind in spiritual activities. This is called Brahmasatra, or meditating upon the Supreme Lord always. Prince Priyavrata was perfectly initiated into this practice by Sri Narada. End of purport. नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्ता स्वामिनेति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद, श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, seeking blessings from all assembled Vaishnavas, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to read Srimad Bhagavatam to purify myself. I'll summarize this verse. So this is chapter of Canto 5, chapter 1, verse 6. So this chapter is about the activities of King Priyavrata. And today's verse is about the faith in spiritual master and supreme personality of Godhead. So I'm reading now Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, like my daily reading, chapter 9, which is Mahaprabhu's travels to the holy places. So there are verses from 93 onwards, which describes about a Brahmana Vaishnava in Sri Ranga Kshetra. The Brahmana used to visit the temple every day, and he recites the entire text of Bhagavad Gita, whole entire 18 chapters every day with transcendental ecstasy. But because he could not pronounce the words correctly, people used to joke about him. But he did not care. He was full of ecstasy due to reading the Bhagavad Gita, and was personally very happy. While reading the book, the Brahmana experienced transcendental bodily transformations. The hairs on his body stood on end, tears welled up in his eyes, and his body trembled and perspired as he read. Seeing this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became very happy. So we see this pronunciation, the Brahmana, he was not able to pronounce those verses from Bhagavad Gita correctly, but he draws attention of Mahaprabhu. So when Mahaprabhu asked him that, my dear sir, why are you in such ecstatic love? Which portion of the Bhagavad Gita gives you such transcendental pleasure? The Brahmana replied, this is from the verse 98. So this is Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila chapter 9. In the verse 98, the Brahmana is saying, विप्र कहे मूर्खामी शब्दार्थ न जानी, सुद्धा सुद्धा गीता पढ़ी guru आज्ञा मानी. The Brahmana replied, I am illiterate and therefore do not know the meaning of the words. Sometimes I read the Bhagavad Gita correctly and sometimes incorrectly. But in any case, I am doing this in compliance with the orders of my spiritual master. So this is a good example of a person who had become so successful that he was able to capture the attention of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu even while reading the Bhagavad Gita incorrectly. His spiritual activities did not depend on material things like correct pronunciation, right? Rather, his success depended on strictly following the instructions of his spiritual master. That's what is mentioned in today's purport. Yashya deva parabhakti yatha deva tatha guru tasyete kathita hi arthaha prakasante mahatmanaha. Only unto those great souls who have implicit faith in both the Lord and the spiritual master are all the imports of Vedic knowledge automatically revealed, which is from Svetasvatara Upanishad 6.23. So this one is also quoted in this today's purport. Actually, the meaning of the words of the Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam are revealed to one strictly following the orders of the spiritual master. They are also revealed to one who has equal faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In other words, being faithful to both Krishna and the spiritual master is the secret of success in spiritual life. So the Brahmana said, as long as I read the Bhagavad Gita, I simply see the Lord's beautiful features. It is for this reason that I am reading the Bhagavad Gita and my mind cannot be distracted from this. So Mahaprabhu, again, Mahaprabhu saying to the Brahmana, प्रभु कहे गीता पाठे तुम्हारे अधिकार तुम्ही से जना है गीतार अर्थ सार. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told the Brahmana, indeed, you are an authority in the reading of the Bhagavad Gita. Whatever you know constitutes the real purport of the Bhagavad Gita. Then, after that, Mahaprabhu embraced the Brahmana. The Brahmana also embraced Mahaprabhu, and he was like crying. He was touching Mahaprabhu's lotus feet. So this is the essence, right? In Bhagavad Gita 15.15, even Lord is saying, Vedista sarvaham eva vedya vedanta krit veda videva chaham. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. So the purpose of Vedas is to understand Krishna. The Vedas give us direction by which to understand Krishna in the process of realizing Him. The ultimate goal is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One can attain perfection in 3 stages. By understanding Vedic literature, one can understand his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is Sambandha. The next is Avidya and Prayojana. That is what is mentioned in today's purport also, right? How Prince Priyavata understand all these things. So our relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that is Sambandha. Also, what is our Sambandha with the Lord? We are eternal servants of the Lord. Jiva Surukra Krishna Nitya Das. That is our relationship. We are part and parcel of Krishna. By performing the different processes, one can approach Him. That is called avidya. And the end, one can attain the supreme goal, who is no other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is Prayojan. Other examples we see from. So this Brahmanas this pastime. It's like so inspiring, right? Like even though we are materially not qualified, but still, if we have unflinching faith on our spiritual master, we can achieve anything. So he was not even able to read the verses properly, but still he drew the attention of Mahaprabhu. And there are many other examples. Few examples I've collected from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 8, Chapter 15, verse 28, how Bali Maharaj, he satisfied his spiritual master and therefore became strong enough to drive the demigods from the heavenly planets. Another example is Sutta Goswami, was described by Sonak Rishi and Naimisharanya as being very submissive and is therefore receiving the favors of his spiritual master. On the other hand, Indra, he displeased his spiritual master Brihaspati and lost everything. So in our daily prayers we sing, right, in the Mangalarti time, Yasya Prasadat Bhagavat Prasado Yasya Prasadat Nagati Kutopi. By the pleasure of the spiritual master, one can get extraordinary power, especially in spiritual advancement. The blessings of the spiritual master are more powerful than one's personal endeavor for such advancement. So even though someone is not materially qualified, and we can never be perfect, right? How much we try, we can never be perfect, cannot be 100% qualified materially, but and not even spiritually, but with the blessings of our spiritual master, by their mercy, we can achieve, like miracles may happen. Narottam Das Thakur therefore says, Guru Mukha Padma Bhakya, Chitte te Kariya Akya, Arena Kariya Mana Ase. Especially for spiritual advancement, one should carry out the bona fide order of the spiritual master. By the Parampara system, one can thus be endowed with the original spiritual power coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Evam Parampara Praptam. Right? We see in the purport, Srila Prabhupada describes Prince Priyavrat. He regularly served the lotus feet of Narada, and thus the prince perfectly understood transcendental subjects. In truth, means all the facts about the spirit soul, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the relationship between the spirit soul and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he also knew all about this material world and the relationship of the spirit soul and the Supreme Lord within this material world. So when his father, Swayambhuva Manu, he requested him to accept the responsibility of ruling over the world, he did not reject it. But at the same time, he will not attach to it. This is what we have to learn from this verse, that we have to do our duties in this material world, but not get attached to it. It's easy to say, but it needs lots of practice because we are conditioned and always in illusion. So we always think like me, my, this belongs to me, my property, my family, my kids, my name and fame. Very difficult, but not impossible. Devotional practice is the only way to get out of it. Once will be attached to Guru and Krishna, Vaishnava Seva, we can slowly get out of this attachment. Otherwise, it's difficult, right? Millions of lifetimes, so many karmic reactions, so many sinful activities. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 18.66, Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam saranam vraja aham tvam sarva papevya mokshashami ma shuchaha. Abandon all varieties of religion. Just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. But before that verse, in 65, what Krishna says, Manmana bhavo madbhakto madhyajimam namaskuru mameva shashi satyamte pratijane priyoshime. Four things we have to do. Always think of Krishna, become his devotee, worship him, offer our homage unto him. Thus, we can go to Krishna without fail. So, Krishna is also demanding certain things from us, right? So, one should always act in such a way that all his daily activities are in connection with Krishna. He should arrange his life in such a way that throughout the 24 hours he cannot but think of Krishna. King Priyavrata, he has in the future verses, we'll read King Priyavrata. Like now in this verse, it is mentioned as prince. He's a prince now, but in future he will become a king, and he has two wives, 13 sons, and one daughter. So much material responsibilities, right? But still he got liberation, always engaging his mind in Guru and Krishna service. So, towards the end of this purport, it's mentioned a devotee always thinks of the Lord continuously. While chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, the words Krishna and Hare immediately remind him of all the Lord's activities. Since his entire life is engaged in the service of the Lord, a devotee cannot forget the Lord at any time. Just as an ordinary man always engages his mind in material activities, so when they leave their body, they're all also thinking of the material activities, what they did throughout their life. So same way, if we engage our mind 24 hours a day in spiritual activities, at the end, that will also come. This is called Brahma Satra, or meditating upon the Supreme Lord always. Prince Priyavrata was perfectly initiated in this practice by Sri Narada, his spiritual master. With this, I'd like to conclude here. Vanchakalpatarufesha kripa sindhu pavasha patitanam pavanevyo